Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this weekly AgWeather update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, here's some good news for you. Right now, it's the Pacific Ocean that is all loaded up with all the action. Check out this map. This is out on Tuesday morning. We can see we have a big coastal low-pressure system spinning off the west coast, another one tucked away in here in the Aleutian Islands. And the good news is, with all the action out west, that may finally mean for a quieter and drier week here for the southeast. So let's talk about it and figure this one out. What I want to start you off with here is a map that shows you the next 7 days of total accumulated precipitation. So this gets us out to next Monday, and the same map showing you snowfall. Now, this map was generated pretty late in the night here, and what we're looking at is the latest model run we had available showing us the total accumulated precip. And what you see over here, while some of this came on Monday, much of the precipitation there for the Carolinas is something that's coming toward the end of this week. On Friday, we're watching the emergence of a low pressure system here coming out of Texas, and as it comes out and kind of moves on off in this direction, we might see some light scattered rain, but I think maybe back in parts of North Carolina, especially in the higher elevations, we may be in the lookout for some snow. So we got to talk about this one and figure this whole pattern out. By the way, meanwhile, look at the west coast just getting slammed here with multiple strong onshore flow events. So that's the thing I want you to pay attention to, the west versus the east in this video. As we progress forward, kind of looking at our forecast here, there's the system that went through on Sunday, Monday, so we can kind of see that one going past. Now, brought a little bit of light rain showers there to start the week. But look at this. By the time I get you into midweek, here's the major feature that we're going to be watching. There will be a large area of higher atmospheric pressure that's kind of sitting here in kind of the U.S.-Canadian border. And I'll tell you, coming out of this one, we're going to have some pretty strong, what we call cold air advection. That's a lot of cold air kind of streaking here out of the north central part of the United States. And that's because by the time we get into Wednesday night and early Thursday morning, a pretty deep low pressure system spins up here and kind of progresses on up toward the Canadian Maritimes. And as it does so, it can really kind of wrap in that cold air on the backside. So we're going to be seeing, mild start to the week, but then very chilly as we progress through the middle of the week. Well, chilly, for this time of year. All right, so where do we get after this? I'm going to remove my drawings here and let's kind of see what happens with that system on Friday. So watch Texas. Here we are Friday morning. There it is. A little shortwave trough comes into Texas, and there's enough cold air in place. Remember I told you that cold air is coming in. There's enough cold air in place that it looks like snow may start to spread through Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then early Saturday morning, getting into Saturday midday, we're going to have to watch this very carefully to see how much cold air is still in place. If there's a cold air damming event coming out of the northeast in place here, that could possibly lead to some snow showers here as we progress away from the coast and get more toward the higher elevations. That will be the question to be answered as we progress into next weekend. So now, remember, this map is valid on Saturday, Saturday the 12th at around noon. So we're pretty far out in the forecast, but we're watching the system, and I want you to watch it all week long because it has the potential not only bring in some precipitation, some light precipitation, but the potential for some snow. So that'll be the system we're watching next weekend. So keep a very close eye on it. Now, after that one goes past, we see high pressure builds back in. So we go right back into a little bit drier pattern. And I'm happy to be able to say that in a video finally, a drier pattern overall. But we are going to watch another system kind of ejecting here around the 16th, somewhere in the north central plains. We're going to talk about that one again in just a few minutes here. So we put all that together. Remember, our next real chance at precipitation is not until we get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday of this upcoming weekend. And again, it's the chance for some lighter snow in parts of North and South Carolina there, maybe a little bit heavier as we get in toward the mountains. Just to kind of show you what the probabilities of that snow are, you can see that there's about right now a 35 to 55% chance of seeing snow in this area as we progress toward the next weekend. So this is the European Ensemble's projection on the probability of snow. So I just want to show you this isn't a slam dunk guaranteed thing by the end of the week. Now, we look at the major features controlling our weather. We're going to look at the Madden-Julian Oscillation, the polar vortex, and then the Pacific jet stream. The MJO went from phase 6 over to phase 7 very quickly over the last 5 days. We talked about that last time. It's now in phases 8 and is progressing over into phase 1 before going back to the null phase, which is right in through here. Now, if we were to forecast this instead of going into phase 8 and then going very high amplitude into phases 1 and 2, I would have said cold air will return and stay in place for the eastern half of the country for the rest of the month of January. Instead, it doesn't do that. It goes right back over here into the null phase. So this is a tropical circulation that impacts weather in the Carolinas. Now, at the same time, the polar vortex has split. One piece of it is here over Europe. One piece of it is spread out here over parts of eastern North America. Now, normally that pattern would have suggested things would be quite cold, but this stratospheric warming event, which has caused the polar vortex split, has yet to manifest itself all the way down into the troposphere. That's a layer of the atmosphere that you and I live in. So it's just really kind of been a non-event so far, even though normally big polar vortex splits like this can cause some pretty major cold air. By the way, when I say normally, it's about 50% of the time that they do and 50% of the time that they don't. So what is it that we have to be watching? What we need to watch is what I started this video out telling you about, the Pacific. Our whole pattern right now is being established right where I just drew that circle. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. As I play this forward, here's the system we're watching by the time we get into Wednesday. This shortwave trough that's kind of here in parts of the Northeast. Now that's going to kick off a big low pressure system that's going to be spinning here over parts of Maine. Now what is that low pressure system going to do? Well, at this particular time, we're going to be seeing flow that's doing something like this. And in comes that cold air behind that trough right there into the Carolinas. And so we start off the week mild, but then move toward this cooler pattern midweek. As we progress forward, you're going to see that trough feature kind of sticks around. Meanwhile, a ridge builds out west. So here we are now getting into that Friday evening time period where things are getting interesting. I told you the west has got control on this. So see this trough here? It allows things to build into a sharp ridge out west and then a broader trough over the east. So what does all that mean? Well, cold air will be coming into this trough. Subtropical jet stream kicks off a little shortwave right in through here, which goes racing to our south and then invigorates that low that possibly spreads snow into this area. So the pattern is a bit delicate as we're forecasting it here at the beginning of the week. We're going to have to watch to see how this all evolves. But again, it gives us that chance for the precipitation Friday into Saturday with the chance of some snow. Now, for the rest of this animation, I want you to be watching the Aleutian Islands right here. You see, what we're going to see is, while another big trough lashes the west coast, the Aleutian Island low moves through and gets it again by the time I get out to the 16th. As I progress forward in this forecast, taking out to the 20th, what do we see here? We see the pattern setting up into what we call a positive P&A pattern. Now, what does that mean? That's where you have this trough here over the Aleutian Islands that allows the flow to split and build into a ridge out west and a broader trough over the east. That allows the subtropical jet stream to also get active just like this. Translation, positive P&A is a ridge out west and a trough over the east. And if that sets up, and if we could possibly get some blocking, a big high pressure system to come over Greenland, we're going to get back into what we would call winter, more normal winter-like weather here with this pattern finally breaking down, but maybe not happening until the middle and end of this month. So that's pretty far out there. Look at the consequence of this. By day 10, because we keep putting these troughs here in the Gulf of Alaska hitting the west coast, our low-pressure systems, they tend to ride a more northerly track with a ridge out here funneling plenty of moisture into them. The moment that that trough retreats west, this is now looking out here on the 20th, our ensemble model is forecasting for much lower pressures in this area. That's a much more southerly storm track and potentially a lot more winter storm-like here for the eastern half of the country. So that's a pattern flip I'm watching very carefully middle to end of this month. In the meantime, temperatures are quite warm. This was the warmth we saw from the system as it progressed through to start the week. This is now midweek. See the colder air invading by the time I get into Wednesday night, Thursday morning. There it is. That's much colder than average. Thursday morning, and that cold air sticks around, possibly getting dammed up here along the Appalachian Mountains, and that's a key setup as that low pressure system emerges out of Texas and moves its way over toward the Carolinas, with the potential for snow here in the Appalachian Mountains and maybe up into points near Raleigh west. So after that, though, what do we see? We see the pattern in the middle part of the country kind of moderate. Let me get rid of my drawing so it's a little bit easier to see here. We see the colder air kind of hanging around there for a little bit with that broader trough, but it's not there for a long time. 16th, 17th, 18th, we get back into a near average to milder than average pattern for much of the United States. It's going to be that late month pattern breakdown that we're going to be waiting on. Now, what does this mean? Well, take a look at this map over here on the left. On January 5th, we had the latest update from our long-range European model, the best global model that we have. And this is its picture it's painting for February and March. Now, El Nino, is it a major factor? Not really. It's already kind of peaked out. We're going to be watching these two features, the Madden-Julian oscillation. Watch for it to stay in phases 7, 8, 1, and 2. Those are cold phases for the Carolinas. Watch the Pacific jet stream. Watch for that retreating trough we just talked about, and any interactions these systems will have with the polar vortex. Now, if the European model has got this forecast right, this is what you're going to have to see setting up in January and February. Split flow. That's the flow of the jet stream. Subtropical branch is the line that's to the south. The line that's to the north is the polar branch. This is a high over low pattern out west, and if that sets up, we call that a positive PNA. If at the same time I can get Greenland to block up with a big ridge, I'll be able to bring in enough cold air to get us back into a negative NAO pattern, and we're going to be cool. We'll go back to a cooler overall flow pattern. Now, the question is, does the European model have this right? Well, I'll tell you, I went and looked back over the last 3 months, and I'll tell you, the European model on its monthly forecast did a pretty good job with December and February, and it's been trending cooler in this area for February. So we're going to have to watch it very carefully. So I think we've got a very interesting pattern setting up for the second part of this winter. Just to show you, though, there's multi-model support with this. Here you're looking at the U.S. equivalent to the European model called the CFSV2. Week 3 temperature anomalies and week 4. So here we're looking at the last 2 weeks of the month of January. You can see that we settle into a near average to cooler than average pattern toward the end of this month. And that's a signal of that split flow. So that's what I'm going to be watching. I'll keep updated week after week about this. Now, because much of the global ag commodity markets are paying close attention to South America, I'm going to give you a quick update on what's going on there. We've seen over the last month much of South America, much of Brazil, I should say, drying out, especially Mato Grosso do Sul, which is here, and parts of Sao Paulo, and also Paraná, which is right down here. We've seen in some locations down here below anywhere between 25 and 75% of normal precipitation. So over the last month, Mato Grosso's built up a deficit. We've seen parts of Mato Grosso do Sul and Paraná build up a deficit there, and even in parts of far southern Brazil, there's still in a bit of deficit, even though some heavy rains have come in recently. And I do mean some heavy rains. As I animate this forward for you here, parts of southern Brazil and Argentina have been hit with multiple rounds of large thunderstorm complexes. There goes one right there. And those large thunderstorm complexes have been putting down a lot of rainfall. And they've actually been dealing with flooding. So while Brazil has been dry, Argentina has been exceptionally wet. So has Uruguay. This is a video that I caught here of this guy that was out here doing a little bit of inner tubing here with some of the floodwaters in Uruguay. Just thought you might get a kick out of that video. As we finish this up, though, look at what we're looking at over the next 15 days. Brazilian monsoon is still weak. It will rain in here, and that rain will follow that trajectory, but just that's not a really, really wet pattern for them. Meanwhile, northern Argentina, Uruguay, southern Brazil, boundary kind of hangs out right there. We're talking more flooding rain on the way. So this is some adversity in South America, and just something that I think if there's a weather story in the markets right now, it's coming out of this region. With that, though, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. We thank you for your attention. Hope you look forward to the next update coming out next week. Thank you.